Hello, hello. Today we're going to be talking all about the best places to source furniture for flipping, of course. Here's what you're going to learn today from this topic. We're going to cover why furniture flipping is the best side hustle ever and who this is for. We're also going to cover the anatomy of a good flip. So when you're looking at furniture specifically, these are the things to look for. We will talk about where to source furniture, how to know what it's worth, and also how to stay safe when you're sourcing your furniture. If you are not familiar with who I am, my name is Whitney Hansen. I am a financial coach, host of the Money Nerds podcast, avid traveler, and occasional public speaker. I love talking about money all day long. I got my claim to fame when I paid off my own debt of $30,000 in just 10 months. Now, the crazy thing is, when I was paying off my debt, I had to do the two-job thing. So I was working 9 to 5 at a staff accounting firm, and the nights and weekends I was doing manicures and pedicures as a nail technician. Now that was great, but that was back in 2012, 2010-ish. So the marketplace has changed drastically. Whereas now, if I would have known about furniture flipping then, I would probably have an entirely different business and I would have paid off my debt, I think, a lot faster as well. So it's a really great way for you to accomplish your financial goals. So let's talk a little bit about why I got started into furniture flipping. I mentioned I'm a financial coach. As a financial coach, my job is to test different side hustles, tell my clients what works, what doesn't work, which ones they should try, and roughly how much money they can make. And so I started to hear a lot of people say they couldn't accomplish their financial goals because of time restrictions. They couldn't take on a part-time job. And also issues with oh my gosh, I don't want to have to work another job at night. I want to be able to do this stuff on my own time. And so I started hearing that. And at the same time, I started hearing about people that were furniture flipping and said, okay, what the heck? I'm going to give this a shot and see if it's even worth it, if I can honestly, in good faith, recommend it to my clients, and ultimately, how much money can you make? And what I discovered is it is such a gold mine. I love furniture flipping as a side hustle because there's so many great things about it. But ultimately, furniture flipping, if this is something that you're considering and you're wondering if this is for you, here is my perspective of who furniture flipping is for. It's for anyone who wants to make anywhere between $500 and $2,000 per month part-time. Furniture flipping is ideal for people that want to have some flexibility with their own schedule and really work on your own time. Maybe you're not available every Friday night, but you are available to go check some stores and maybe work on furniture or sell it or meet people, and you have a little bit more flexibility there. I think it's a really great side hustle for flexibility. I also think it's a really good side hustle if you have space to store furniture. Now, do note, this is not required. You can still make a great side income with furniture flipping, even if you're storing a nightstand here and there or a dresser in your house or that kind of stuff. It's okay. You don't have to have a full garage. But what I will say is it's a lot easier if you do have the space to store furniture. Again, not required, so please don't let that stop you. But it is a really good thing to have if you are willing to give up maybe a garage space or spare bedroom. It's also good for people that have a creative eye. Again, it's not required, but we'll talk about why that creative eye can be so helpful when it comes to furniture flipping here in just a few minutes. All right, let me show you some examples of pieces that I've flipped, and then we can talk about where to find some pieces. So this piece was one of my first ever furniture flipping pieces. It is a pretty, it was a good size kitchen table, a dining table. I picked it up from an online auction. I purchased it for $6. I listed it and sold it for $60 on Facebook Marketplace. That was one of my very, very first flips ever. This next flip is why I say having a creative eye can be very helpful. Now, some of these pieces you don't have to do anything to, and some you might want to put a little bit of work into or do some type of creative flair so that you can make more money off of this piece. This was an old tambour entertainment stand. You probably see these occasionally in your own thrift stores. It's a really, they're not super beautiful, but tambour is really cool. And I noticed that that was becoming a bigger trend. And so I took that little entertainment stand, I cut off the base of it. I purchased some legs off of Amazon they were pretty reasonably priced. I want to say they were maybe $20, $25, and basically sold that for $150. So when I say if you have a creative eye, furniture flipping can be for you. Again, it's not required because as you can see, this required no creativity. It was take a picture, not even a great picture at that, list it and sell it. This requires a bit more creativity, but if you have that creative eye or you're willing to learn how to become more creative, it really opens up the possibilities of furniture flipping for you. So while you don't have to do all these fun things where you paint and you sand and you stain, all of that is not required for furniture flipping. I do quite a bit of that because I enjoy it, but it's not required. Here's another example of a piece that I purchased off of Facebook Marketplace. I paid $50 for this. I sold it for $350. The cool thing is this was one of those things where it was very underpriced and it was a good name. So when I started to do some more research, I saw that it was worth quite a bit of money. So we'll talk about how you can do research as well and make sure that you are valuing your items when you're sourcing them. A couple more examples. This was a little outdoor sectional that I paid $75 for. I sold it for $300. And the cool thing about this too is I really didn't do much work to it. I took the cushions off, I washed them, I bleached them, and I put them back on, and that was it. This outdoor sectional, also important, is when you're thinking through sourcing your furniture, think through seasonality as well. This would obviously not sell as fast or as well in the winter, but does phenomenal in the spring and summer. The other thing that I purchased was this little dresser. So this is just to give you examples of what you can source. This dresser was a little beat up, not too bad. Drawers were functional, streamlined, cute, not too shabby at all. Has a good mid-century flair. Paid $25 for that. Sold it on Facebook Marketplace for $150. A couple more examples. So these were outdoor chairs that I almost passed up. They were really dirty. They had just like spider webs and grass, and like they were clearly not taken care of, but they were pretty cheap. They were $7.99 each. So I remember thinking, I wonder if I could figure out how much these are actually worth. And I'll show you a hack in this presentation, but I was able to figure out that they were selling brand new on Amazon for almost $200 for 2 chairs. So immediately I purchased those and cleaned them up and gave them a good scrub down, took a picture, and then I sold those for $140. This coffee table I paid $20 for. It was also a really good brand. When I say a good brand, again, we're going to talk about all of this stuff, but a good brand is like a good, recognizable, vintage, mid-century modern brand that most people that are collectors would recognize. So paid $20, sold that for $130. So I share all of this to just show you that there's so many different possibilities and avenues you can go when it comes to furniture flipping. Whether you choose to refurnish or you choose to just clean up some chairs and list them as is, you get to set what you choose to do when it comes to furniture flipping. But the important thing is you really have to understand what is the anatomy of a good flip. So let's talk about this. When you're thinking through a good flip, there's really 4 components that you have to think through when you're sourcing your furniture. First and foremost is quality. Quality is very subjective, but in general, what I find quality to mean is solid wood. People really appreciate solid wood. You can still do veneer or laminate pieces, but in general, that solid wood is really, really kind of where the sweet spot is, if you can find it. Another quality piece is like when it comes to dressers, dovetail drawers. So see in the corner how it has those little, the little dovetails. that tends to be a good sign of a quality piece. It's like an extra layer of construction that most people do tend to appreciate. The next thing to think through is brand. When you're thinking through brand, there's 2 different ways to approach this. First and foremost is look through recognizable brands. Things like West Elm, Pottery Barn, Bassett, Mersman, Restoration Hardware, CB2. In general, IKEA is one to steer clear of. It depends on, so I live in Boise, Idaho. There is no IKEA near us. So sometimes IKEA furniture is still like this rare commodity, but I generally will not do that because IKEA tends to be a little bit cheaper. It tends to be not as good quality. And ultimately, the type of material that a lot of IKEA uses is not good for refinishing, which is what I do quite a bit of. The next piece that helps a lot with the quality question is looking for things that are stamped or branded or stickered. So this is more prominent on vintage furniture or mid-century modern furniture. So as you can see from here, this was a dresser that I purchased. When I opened up the top drawer, this was the stamp. It's a vintage Bassett furniture stamp. And so that stuff, it helps you a lot. And it also is really important too, because when you're trying to figure out how much is this piece actually even worth, it's really helpful if you know what you're looking for, and stamps and stickers are a piece of that makes everything totally different. You can immediately ask for more money if it's in decent condition, if it is stamped or branded in some way. The next thing that I often look for when it comes to furniture flipping is trend. So trends are tough because trends also depend on your location. Again, here in Idaho, you could still get away with selling farmhouse style furniture and people will still love it. Whereas maybe in a more modern city like New York City or some parts of California, that may not be as trendy. So you do have to be aware of like what actually sells in your area. The way to test that, if you're not sure what actually sells in your area, is just do a quick scroll through Facebook Marketplace and pay attention to what things are there. And again, if you're looking, like save a few of these pieces, save them on your marketplace so that you can watch it and see how long did it take for it to actually sell. Was it a week? Was it a day? Was it a couple hours? You'll start to learn very quickly if you just observe marketplace. But when it comes to the trendy pieces, here's the things that I generally will look for to ensure that I'm really hitting on that trend element. One is clean lines. Dressers with clean lines, tables with clean lines. When I mean clean lines, I mean like it's just streamlined, it's structured. It's like a classic piece of furniture. That does really, really well. The next thing is any tambour or fluting. Again, this is very trendy right now, so it's not something I would consistently do, but if you have the opportunity and you see something like that, it can sell pretty well. The next piece, anything mid-century modern. I do not know what it is about mid-century modern. I mean, it is a good look. It's clean, it's streamlined, it's got cute legs usually. They're very good pieces, but any mid-century modern pieces tend to do really, really well. And if you're not sure what a mid-century modern piece actually looks like, you can do a quick Google search and it will pull up all of this stuff. So funny side story too, when I was first getting into furniture flipping, I didn't know any of this stuff. And I remember seeing MCM on all of these pieces of furniture. And I was such an idiot. I'm like, oh, Man Crush Monday? What is this? So now I know it means mid-century modern. But these are all keywords that you can use when you're creating your listings to sell furniture. So it's important that you are paying attention to the trends and the language and how to market your materials as well. The next thing, anything classic vintage. Classic vintage is where it's at. And the big rule of thumb too is just because you may not like something does not mean it won't sell. So keep that in the back of your mind when you're looking for pieces. Sometimes there's many pieces that I would never have in my house ever, but I know they will sell. My style does not mean that that's not going to sell. Sometimes the stuff that I personally like, people they're just not buying it as quickly. So that's why if you stick with the rule of thumb of doing clean lines, anything mid-century modern, making sure it's good quality, name brand or stamped, if you stick with those pieces, you're usually going to be okay. Another resource that I like to use for learning trends is I look at Pinterest trends often. So Pinterest does this really cool report where they will tell you what people are actually searching for. Etsy does something similar. I highly recommend looking at both. And so these reports that they do yearly will give you a better idea of what people like, what they don't like, all of that kind of stuff. So it helps you just in the back of your mind when you're thinking through sourcing for furniture. And the last and probably most important piece of an anatomy of a good flip is a low price. At the end of the day, flipping anything is about buying low, selling high. That's at the end of the day. If you can just get that concept, you'll be fine. And so sometimes that means getting free furniture and just selling it for $50. Sometimes that means paying $50 for a dresser and selling it for $200, $250. But ultimately, what you're looking for is a low price. If you follow this formula, these four things, you're going to find some really, really good pieces. So now that you have an idea of what you're looking for, it's time to go shopping. So let's talk about where to start sourcing. One of my favorite resources ever, this is like the ultimate lazy person hack, is to go to hibid.com, hibid.com. This is an online auction that allows you to search for multiple auctions within your area. Now, do pay attention to auctions. Don't get crazy. Don't go out of control with this stuff. There is definitely something that really triggers in your brain when you see that you're close to winning and then somebody last minute outbids you. It can trigger this like competition. Try not to fall into that unless it's a really good piece. Know your top end budget of what you should purchase for that. And don't forget to factor in all of the auction fees. If highbid.com for some reason does not work for you, you can just search online auctions in your city and you're going to find a ton of different options. The next place to look for furniture is good old garage sales or estate sales. So garage sales are still, they usually go on year round. They are much more prevalent in the spring with spring cleaning and all of that kind of stuff, but you can still find some good ones. The other thing is when it comes to estate sales, I like a website called estately.com. It tells you what estate sales are coming up and where they're going to be. So I do find that to be a pretty helpful resource. Of course, thrift stores. I have my round of thrift stores. I don't go to all of them in all of the areas. I pick out the ones that I've noticed I find more pieces at, or pieces that appeal to the people I sell to. So I will not waste my time going to places that I just always don't luck out. I just can't find anything. Those are the places that I will typically make a mental note and say, I'll check that occasionally, but not often. The next place to source furniture is Restore. Have you been here? This is such a cool thing. So every city, almost every city, has this place where it's Habitat for Humanity, and it's a donation center where people can donate old construction supplies and materials and lumber and that kind of stuff. Now, why this is so cool is because Restore also occasionally has furniture. Now, what I have found is a lot of times, it's starting to change in some areas, but a lot of times the people that work there, they don't know how to value furniture. So therefore, you can find some really great pieces for pretty inexpensive. Of course, Craigslist. It's not dead. It's still very active, but don't forget to search for that free section on Craigslist. You can sometimes find some true gems, especially if you're just getting into furniture flipping and you don't have a ton of money. The next place is Facebook Marketplace. I probably find, at this stage, maybe 80% of my furniture from Facebook Marketplace, and then I resell on Facebook Marketplace. Now, I know everybody's always like, is that okay? Can you actually do that? Of course you can. It's okay. You have to get around that feeling of feeling almost fraudulent or like insecure about it. There's a lot of insecurity when it comes to making money off of stuff. If you don't have that, I applaud you. This is probably one of the biggest complaints I get from so many people is they feel bad buying something for cheap and reselling it at a higher price. But you get over that very quickly the more you do this. Another place to start for sourcing furniture is friends and family. Don't forget about your friends and family. Sometimes you can do some really fun structures where maybe you'll do a profit split or you will do some type of trade. That's a really, really great way to go where you will sell it and then take maybe even a commission. And last but definitely not least, the best place to start sourcing is your house. Raise your hand if you have way too much crap. I know I'm not alone on this. We all have stuff. And if you just go through your own house, I know there's a lot of presentations that talk about different flipping topics, but even like your shoes, this is a good thing to sell, but furniture for sure. It is such a great way to start sourcing items immediately. The next thing I want to give you some guidance on is how to know what it's worth. So when you do go sourcing your furniture and you find some really possibly great deals, it fits all of those 4 components of an anatomy of a good flip, how to know what it's worth. The Google app for Google Lens, my friend, this is the best thing you could do for yourself. It is such a great way to go. Here's how it works. You first have to download the Google app. The Google app is really quite easy. You just keep it on your phone. And then when you find a piece of furniture that you're interested in, you open up the app, you click on that little camera icon, and depending on the time you listen to this workshop, it could be different, but as of right now, this is what it looks like. You will upload a picture of the item, and it will tell you roughly how many different items look similar so that you can almost shop to find it. So in the case of this specific piece of furniture, the way this worked is I took a picture. This is one that I purchased off Facebook Marketplace for $50, remember, and then I listed it and sold it for $350. But the way I knew what it was valued at was by using Google Lens. So I saw this Etsy listing for the exact same dresser or hutch or credenza, whatever you want to call it. And it was sold on Etsy for $600. Now, here's the thing. When you're looking at your furniture, just because it's sold for $300 or $600 does not mean that locally that's what you'll get. So do set your expectations. I usually find that I will do about half of the online price if I'm selling it locally, because I don't want to hold on to my furniture pieces forever. I really don't. So that's how you can start to value your furniture to see if it's a good deal for you and what it is worth. So hopefully this has given you a better idea of how to source and how to price your furniture. So now let's talk about a very important topic that is often overlooked when it comes to flipping, and that is how to stay safe when sourcing and selling online. This is, as a whole, one of the types of businesses, especially when you're selling furniture. If you don't have your own warehouse or storage unit, you are probably going to have strangers come to your house. And if you're really uncomfortable with that, your options are to rent a storage unit. It's to meet somebody in public. I would hate to load up a heavy dresser though and meet somebody in public and then have them say, "Oh, I changed my mind. I don't like the piece." There's a lot that could go wrong there, but if you're comfortable with that, that's fine too. But ultimately, you do have to be somewhat comfortable with having people come to your house if you're not willing to invest in the storage unit and that kind of stuff. So just be aware of that, please. This ways to stay safe is to really just use a little bit of common sense here and meet in public places if possible. So if you are going to meet somebody and they say they're going to be coming to your house in order to pick up a piece of furniture, I always try to have that piece of furniture outside by my front door, and I have one of those Ring doorbells so it records so that I can see when somebody's there, and it makes me feel a little bit better that I actually have some form of identification of where I went should I ever go missing. This is such a rare thing, so you really don't have to worry about it too much, but it's important to just be cautious. So definitely meet in public places if possible. At the very least, put it somewhere where it's well lit in your yard and you have some type of camera security or something of the sort. The next thing is, when you're starting to inquire and talk with people about the items, don't give out your phone number on Facebook Messenger. This is such a big scam. I see it all the time. Do not give out your phone number. You don't need to. Just keep it very short and sweet. All communication directly through Facebook Messenger. The next thing that I will do is I will tell people not to text me, to message me. I have a typo there. I will tell people to message me on Facebook when they are on their way to my house, and that I will then send them my address. So I say, "Hey, you want this dresser? Great. Send me a message when you're on your way and I'll give you my exact address." I've never had anybody push back on that. It's usually, you have to monitor your phone during that time, but it's a way for you to not give your address out to a bunch of crazy people online. You don't know who these people are. So at least this way, same thing. It gives you some form of a paper trail so you know exactly who is coming to your house. I also tell them to text me or message me when they get here so that I can meet them outside. So this is important too. I do not let people come directly to my front door and ring the doorbell. Listen, maybe I'm a safety nut. I don't know, probably, but I do not want anybody to come into my house. It makes me very uncomfortable. So if I meet them outside, I feel so much better about that. I work from home. I'm usually home alone. So when I do sell pieces, that makes me feel a little bit safer. The other thing too is to only take cash, Venmo, or Facebook Pay. I don't know about some of these other apps. I do know that these are the three most common, and these are the ways that people want to pay. Do not take checks, because you may not get money. So just make sure it's only cash, Venmo, or Facebook Pay. If you have Square, you can do that too. I just think most people don't pay for that, especially if this is a side hustle. Next is to, as I mentioned, do not give out your address until someone says they are on their way. When they are on their way is when you give them your address. You can give them main areas. I'll tell people these are my two primary crossroads. This is where I'm located in Boise. So I give them some idea so they're not just loosely saying, "I have no idea how long that's going to take for me to get here." So do give that, but do not give your exact address until they're on their way. And of course, be smart about this. Try to have somebody else home with you if you know you're selling a piece of furniture. These are all of my tips. I would love to see what you do with them and more importantly, what you flip. So send me all of your pictures on Instagram. I'm at Whitney_Hansen_co. Listen to the Money Nerds podcast if you want to figure out how to take this flipping money to the next level with your financial goals. But definitely stay in touch. I love the flipping community. I think it's very supportive, and I'm so glad that you took part of the Reseller Summit. This is such a great way for you to expand your knowledge and make a little extra cash. And who knows, this could become your full-time gig. Thank you so much for hanging out with this workshop. I will see you on Instagram.